Hey, good morning, guys. It's another beautiful morning out in Mountain Air, New Mexico, and I'm about to leave and take off and head up to Albuquerque to tour a build by Albuquerque Joinery. They're general contractors that focus in earthen builds, specifically Adobe construction. We featured them on a prior video, episode 54. I'll put it in the description, link to it below, and as well as their website and information about them. And anyway, I just thought I'd let you know they are really premier builders. We're really impressed with the quality of their work, their craftsmanship, their design. Anyway, this is another home they're doing that we're going to tour. It's not in a completed state yet. It's still under construction. But we thought it's something that our viewers would like. So I'm going to get up there and give you a nice look at the Albuquerque Joinery. Okay, pit stop for lunch. Laguna Burger in Albuquerque off of 12th Street. Anyway, if you're ever in Albuquerque, this is a really good fresh burger, fresh meat. They have other sandwiches too, and a full bar and all that too. So it's just a great place for a beautiful day like today to eat outside and enjoy the patio. And that's what I'm gonna do today. Cheers. Okay, this is the classic Laguna Burger. You can see the yummies in here. Green chili, always on the side because you never know how hot it'll be. This is New Mexico after all. And yummy fries. Cheers. Styrofoam before they put the plaster on. Great insulation. Should be for a nice warm house in the winter. There'll be bricks up close. Looks like cinder blocks for the footing here. Huh. This, I believe, is the shop. Probably some clean outs. Metal roof. Yeah, of course, from episode 54, there's the yard getting finished off. It's looking nice back there. Just missing a hot tub. You do some beautiful work here.
Thank you.
All right. This is just magnificent. Hi.
Hey,
Just telling Kenny, you guys just do beautiful work here.
thank you.
This is just fantastic.
Yeah, he really goes the extra length to work through all the details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love what you do.
Thank you.
And a nice little fireplace. Stove to keep the shop here warm during those winter nights. Just the detail here is just magnificent. You know, to help structural stability here, the little brackets in place. And these timbers are just magnificent here. I just wish you could feel the walls and stuff and the soil. And then the fine details of the electrical, how they get the box inside between the bricks and stuff and the mortar. And they're gonna, no doubt, have that extra layer of the finished stucco material here and paint before they put the faceplate and the outlets or switches or whatever they have going on there. Now I wish you could smell the smell of the fresh timbers too, and the ceiling wood. It's just got such a nice, wonderful smell of wood. Ah, here we got on the other side. Some of the outlets going in. This must be the bathroom in here, I'm sure, for the shop. Yeah, it looks like a spot for the toilet, a little corner shower. Must be a sink here. Looks like you're getting ready to pressure test. I see a little gauge there.
My name's Kenny DeWatt. This is Esther Ferguson, my partner in business and in life.
When's her birthday?
July 14th. Yeah, Bastille Day. So we started this project in May of 2023, and the house is 1,750 square feet, and this is, we're calling it a barn. It's a shop, workshop. This is 800 square feet. And we sort of had kind of free reign to design these structures for our client. His only requirements were that we do pitched roofs on both structures because he just didn't believe in flat roofs, and we said, okay, we can do a pitched roof. And then we had to have tall ceiling heights in this structure because his wife is some sort of applied physicist or something, and she needs a lot of room for gravitational acceleration. So that's why we had to do two different roofs. We didn't want to do the same assembly on both of the roofs, just because this whole assembly on this structure is actually an unvented roof. So this is all insulated with about R35 with polyiso insulation on top of the roof deck. So we preserved this open look and everything with insulation on the top. He didn't want to use trusses because of the gravitational acceleration thing. And so we wanted to do a cathedral ceiling in here, and we kept it a flat ceiling in the house, just mainly for budgetary reasons, you know. So the house we basically built like a normal Adobe structure with a flat roof. And then instead of building a system of parapets and rafters on top of a flat ceiling there, we just built a pitched roof. So it was all fairly similar construction to what we typically do on that structure. There's basically and this is sort of the commonality between both of the structures. There's basically two roofs on both.
How much structural space is there between this deck and the other deck of the roof?
So the stack goes, there's these rafters that you see here that are actual structural rafters. The 1x8 decking. Then there's 5.5 inches of polyiso foam with staggered joints above that, and a vapor barrier in between those. And then there's a breathable, like high vapor permeability membrane on top of the foam roof. Okay. And then there are purlins, and then a metal roof on top of that. And so all the rafter tails were sized for 2x6, so that they would, like that stack of foam and everything planes out with the top of those false rafter tails. And then those purlins plane out with all the exposed soffit decking you see on the outside. And a similar thing on the house, that one also had purlins, but they were thinner, because that one has a sort of conventional vented attic space.
Kenny, how'd you attach your purlins?
For this one? We used 10-inch timber screws down through the purlins, all the way through the foam and into these beams.
Just talking about what you mean.
Well, what we did is we just pulled a long tape from one end of the building and just ran a layout on all the purlins, lined them up and made it a template set, and then just copied that onto the other ones, and we pre-drilled them all on the ground so that you had nice square holes.
Yeah.
And they all, a 3x target is actually pretty easy to hit, and that was part of the reason we used that size lumber. 4x felt too big. 2x, I know from personal experience, it becomes much harder to hit them.
My next question is how many shiners?
None.
Did you get? None.
None on this one. But the previous time I did this sort of assembly, I got a couple. But yeah, they all found their home.
Yeah. So this 3x8 lumber dimension is one that you'll see throughout the house too, and it was sort of an aesthetic decision. We just, working with rough cut lumber with, a mill that can sort of cut anything for you. We sort of felt like, oh, well, we don't have to do 2x, we don't have to do 4x, let's do 3x. Nobody does 3x, and it'll look great.
And I think it looks just right.
Yeah.
I'm real happy with it. Yeah.
So the city wanted a stamp for the approval, but then if you did mill stamp lumber, then, right?
It was stamped lumber, actually. I still have not been asked for that by the city. I know certain jurisdictions, Rio Rancho is an example, they will always ask for a stamp, but our rough sawn lumber mill does have the credentialing to be able to stamp the lumber. It is, they charge an extra 20% because there are rejected pieces, and they have to pay for the licensure. But we decided to get it stamped just to be safe. And then also the quality of the lumber does tend to be a little bit better when you
What
get the lumber stamped.
sawmill do you use?
Wholesale timber in Viga.
Oh, yeah, in
Yeah,
Brazil.
Jeff.
What's this stamped as? SS or it's not super select?
I would need to,
One or two?
let me think of, can I?
Yes.
Yeah, there's
I'll be
a
here.
separate, so these are not, it's not the same grading scheme as the
Okay.
Western Wood Products Association.
Right.
It's a separate grading scheme that's actually really intended for the log home framing
Okay.
business. So it's a different scheme that takes into consideration the fact that it's all rough cut, none of it's kiln dried,
Right.
and it's green.
And I don't know those numbers.
Yeah, but yeah, their scheme is a little bit confusing.
It is.
But yeah, it's basically the equivalent in that separate realm as a number 2. in
That's
sort
what I
of-
thought. I could see.
Yeah, it's got knots and stuff, but it all basically meets the same requirements that
Nice.
that
Very
one.
nice.
Why
So-
did you decide to do 2 permits?
Excuse me?
Why did you do 2 permits?
Well, originally we were thinking about just building the barn first, and the house was gonna come at a later date. When we applied for the permit for the barn, the city actually wouldn't allow us to build it without a house on the property.
I'm just finding, I'm from Santa Fe and I'm doing my first permit with Albuquerque, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, they're awful.
there's a lot of little things, like, oh.
Yeah,
They're not awful, they just need,
You're not
they
awful,
need
you just
help.
have to talk to them.
You just gotta help
A lot of
them.
discussion.
yeah.
But that's what I'm, yeah. that's-
Yeah, that was
They're
part of the
very
reason.
particular about like the house versus the auxiliary building.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, like for example, this building is not allowed to be taller than that building.
And it also is not allowed to be bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because your hobby, I was told my hobbies could not be bigger than my house.
Yes, yeah. Per the Albuquerque.
Totally backwards.
Like, you're talking to the wrong person.
My shop is bigger than my house, so I told you.
Yeah, because you're not selling your house.
Yeah.
Please clean all those bathrooms.
Yes. And then the other reason was just that the assemblies were different enough that we felt like having them on 2 permits.
Well, that's what
Just-
I was wondering.
just sort of made sense
Kind
because
of
the-
Because you were getting different.
Yeah, the sequencing of construction, they were not always parallel. And it sort of made sense to be able to get a little bit ahead on the other one, get that inspection, then we jump over to the other one and we'll get that inspection later or whatever.
Right, and we'll be able to close out this permit sooner, because, you know, we don't have as much finished work to do.
But this is an unconditional building, right?
It is, right, so this bathroom here is the only conditioned space, so the bathroom has heat and plumbing, but exactly, the rest of the building is unconditioned space, yeah.
But we still felt like it was worth it to insulate the roof. Because to add what we did later would be pretty difficult, you know?
Well, it'd be hot to be in here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
uncomfortable,
and we know from personal experience, having built this basic structure before, that it works really well to have a lot of insulation on the roof, and the Adobes don't necessarily need to be insulated if you don't want it to be, you know,
No,
if you're not
my
quite as
question was
particular about the
for
time.
the permit purpose.
Yeah.
Not because I'm objecting the quality of the building.
Right, yeah, and we permitted it as an unconditioned space, so. And that was what allowed us to leave the Adobe exposed, you know, and that helped sort of control the cost of the building a little bit, because then we're not paying for as much stucco and foam, and the windows can be a little bit more basic. You know, we can use single pane windows here, so we just bought barn sash to put in instead of, you know, more expensive double pane windows.
I want to welcome you all. I'm on the TAG board, along with Esther, Kenny, Rob Taylor, Helen, Josh. That's your board right now. Others are missing, but I wanted to read you what TAG's mission is. It's to promote, preserve, and expand the building methods of Adobe, rammed earth, and compressed earth block. Our organization is dedicated to the betterment and advancement of earthen construction of homes and commercial buildings, including the preservation and restoration of existing buildings. The commitment of the people in this industry stretches across family traditions, as you guys show, community heritage, meaningful work, environmental concerns, and the joy of working with the earth. We want to ensure that we continue to make history through our building processes while improving them to create safe, comfortable, long-lasting structures. And these two are doing that. So we're proud to be associated with them and, you know, seeing what can be created. You know, this is not a long-lost art. They are bringing it into the 21st century, along with Helen, who makes the bricks. And so your support is important, just coming to these tours and getting the word out. Esther's done a great job of putting it on Instagram to put that word out there in the way we know how to do nowadays, not a letter in the mail or whatever. So those of you who are not members of TAG, we encourage you to be so, because it gives us support for doing things like this and doing code work and working with the city officials to get, you know, hear us. So any other doing that, you know, we have our partners in this whole thing is Cornerstones and Adobe in Action. Both of them do classes. Santa Fe Community College has been on board now doing classes. So all of that you can find on our website. We try to support each other by giving, you know, what's happening at Cornerstones. Isaac is an instructor there and doing some great work with teaching people this art and this science and this, you know, method of building. So I encourage you to, you know, if you aren't on our email list, please sign up and visit our website. There's tons of information on there. We want to put more on there and make it available to anybody that wants to pursue doing.
And then we just framed a different roof. This one, like I said, got insulation on the outside. So all the rafter tails that you see outside are actually false rafter tails that only go up about 3 feet on top of the ceiling deck. And then the balance of the roof is all covered with continuous insulation. And for this structure, additionally, we're not going to be stuccoing at all. So all the Adobe on the outside is all going to stay exposed. And that's why on the outside, we sort of tooled the joints nice so they weather well and evenly and not excessively. But we will be doing mud plaster on the inside. And then just leaving it raw mud plaster. We designed both of the buildings to have an exposed bond beam, so that'll all stay, you know, visible for the life of the building. And in this case, we had a couple difficulties with the city. One of them was they asked us to get our Adobes tested in a lab. So Helen, our Adobe supplier, helped us to get our Adobes into a lab and make sure that they didn't absorb too much water. They're all semi-stabilized Adobes. They're not fully stabilized Adobes, but they did pass the test in this case.
Did they ask that for both buildings?
They didn't ask for that for both buildings. I went in and argued with them several times about this, or I discussed the issue with them several times. And they were really worried about the idea of a structural element in Adobe. They were figuring it would just melt, I guess. They were worried about the lack of a drainage plane or any sort of durable surface on the outside. And when you really think about it, it's very different from how a wood frame structure works. You know, they're meant to sort of shed and just eject water. And these walls will take on water, but they can deal with it. So I had to prove to them that, you know, as per the Adobe code, Adobes that were exposed would meet the definition of a stabilized Adobe. And then the other issue was they asked us to get the bond beam engineered for the house, but not for this. We ended up building them exactly the same because once we figured it out on that, I wasn't going to switch methods to do this structure. But yeah, the bond beam, it was all going to be exposed, but we had to figure out a method of attachment to the Adobe walls that would allow it to be exposed and not look like there were big metal fasteners all over the place or anything. So everywhere where there aren't, the window butts do count as an attachment point. So these are all screwed down with, in this case, I think 12-inch timber screws. In the house we use big, long 16-inch timber screws to attach the window butts and door butts. But everywhere else, every 4 feet, so there's probably one either here or here, or maybe, yeah, I think there's probably 2 here. There are 1/2-inch bolts that go down 4 courses down, and there's a 4x4 square washer welded to the bottom of that threaded rod. And we laid them, you know, right here so that every other course it would just line up with a head joint, so we wouldn't have to drill that many Adobes. And then when it came time to do the bond beam, we had all these little bolts sticking up, and we had to just lay the bond beam out very carefully and thread all these beams. In addition to getting all the joints tight and all that stuff, we had to thread them over all these threaded rods that were sticking up out of the wall, which was really fun.
This is really important. Like, it really makes it so that we can continue to build with Adobe in this state. And TAG has like developed a really, really awesome relationship with the state where they get it. They get that Adobe's important and that it needs to be preserved in the code. So they really hear us, and that's because of TAG's work. So we meet with state building officials, you know, regularly to maintain the code, maintain those relationships, and slowly and carefully tweak it and update it, but try not to, you know, we're not going to overhaul the Adobe code, but, you know, make sure that it's still there and it's available for people to build with, you know, whether it's professionals or owner builders. Yeah.
And encouraging that.